Hey everyone, welcome back to Mangastorian. This is my weekly One Piece reading club in which I read a batch of One Piece and then tell you my thoughts on the entire series. If this is your first Mangastorian One Piece reading club video, so far, Zoro's my favorite, Sanji's a close second, Luffy's okay, but I've got my issues with him not really doing much other than being unconscious and jumping into the fights. Nami's probably one of the cooler characters, and Usopp just seems kind of useless, but I'm sure that's not going to be the case in the long run. Today we're going to be covering the Little Garden and the Drum Island arcs, as those are the two that I read. I finished Little Garden about 3 days ago, and then I finished Drum Island today, this morning, like really this morning. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and get into Little Garden. So our crew is currently going through the Grand Line. I just realized, what are they going through the Grand Line for? Oh, to get Gold's, get Gold's treasure at the end, Gold Rogers. I'm like, wait, why are we in the Grand Line? So anyway, we're starting this portion with a Little Garden. They arrive at the island, they disperse, a series of things happen. Zoro and Sanji are gonna go see who can catch the most food. Nami and Usopp are hanging out at the boat, they're gonna protect it, but what happens is the entire group ends up on this island. The island is filled with dinosaurs in 2 giants, and their names are Broggy? We're gonna go with Broggy. I'm reading the manga, so I don't know how it's pronounced in the anime. I apologize. But Dory and Broggy. We'll go Broggy. Broggy and Dory. So these 2 giants, as we discover, have been interlocked in combat for 100 years. They live a lifespan of what I believe they said is like 300 years, and they have been constantly fighting. And they don't even remember why they're fighting. But every day when the volcano goes off, they meet in the middle and they battle it out. And when one of them finally wins, their battle, their honor, everything will be done. They're all about this battle-worn honor. So both sides have kind of dispersed. You got Nami and Usopp with one of the giants. You got Luffy and Sanji. No, Sanji's not with the giants. Sanji's doing his own thing right now because that's important. But you got Luffy and Zoro with another one of the giants. And basically, they all sit around, have a good chat, see what the giants are doing. Usopp is amazed by them. He wants to go to Giant Island. He loves their sense of warrior code and honor and how they want to fight things. Nami and Luffy's enamored by them as well. He loves them, and they provide the giants with ale. Well, the ale has been spiked by Baroque Works members that are on the island, who I believe it's Mr. 5, Miss Valentine, Mr. 3, and Miss Golden Week. And so what we discover is that these people are also on Little Garden, and that these 2 giants have a combined total of 100 million berry bounty on their heads. So they spiked the drink to have an explosion so that which one of the giants drank it? When Dory drinks down the ale, it explodes in his stomach. At first, there's a little bit of confusion of whether or not the Straw Hat Pirates did that or whether or not it was somebody else. That's quickly thrown out. We don't waste a lot of time blaming Luffy and his crew. And we discover that the Baroque Works members are there. Now, this leads to what I find to be one of my favorite Zoro moments up to this point that doesn't involve him murdering like 100 bandits. They end up going against, I think it's Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week. And the powers of these individuals is Mr. 3 can create wax. It can create wax structures and stuff like that. Miss Golden Week can paint things and make you feel emotions. That's their battle powers. So at first, they end up capturing Vivi, Nami. Oh, I forgot Vivi was with them. Yeah, Vivi, Nami, and Zoro. And they trap them in this like giant candelabra kind of thing. It's a huge thing that's spraying wax on them to turn them into statues. Now, Nami and Vivi are trying to get out of this. Zoro's just striking a pose. And his argument is, if I'm gonna die, I wanna have this awesome pose. And he is like adamant that he is going to strike this pose. He also tries to cut off his own legs, because if he's gonna die anyway, he might as well cut off his own legs, which just leads to Zoro having yet another injury that he has to deal with. But I just thought it was awesome that his character has decided that he's just gonna strike a pose if they're gonna die, while Vivi and Nami are like, no, we gotta get out of here. What are you doing, Zor? What are you doing, Zoro? And he's just like, this is the pose. This is the one I want if I'm gonna die, and get turned into a statue. Luffy ends up showing up as well. The giants are incapacitated at this time. Dory has been defeated by, what was the name of the other one? So basically the giants did their battle, but Dory is still injured from the drink. So Broggy, whatever his name is, shows up and defeats Dory. He knows something is off. Dory arrived for the final battle, and because of that, he will not tarnish his honor by letting him win or even calling off the fight. They will have the fight, and he did defeat Dory. So Dory is thought to be dead at this moment. The other giant, Broggy, is currently encased in the wax and unable to get up. So the giants are incapacitated, Zoro, Vivi, and Nami are incapacitated, and that leaves Usopp and Luffy to show up and actually accomplish the goal, okay? So Usopp is kind of hiding off to the side trying to figure it out and see what's going on while Luffy gets straight into the fight. And he's like clearly winning. That is until Miss Golden Week gets involved and she starts painting symbols on him to make him feel betrayal against his crew. He ends up feeling empathetic. He ends up just wanting to drink tea. She's basically forcing his emotions to do different things. And I think it was Zoro that says it, but that Luffy is so simple-minded, he's gonna fall for this every time. And they just state that, and I just like, okay, so we're really hammering in Luffy's character that he just has a simple goal in mind. That's all he has, that one goal, and that's what he's trying to accomplish. And I loved that. We established that right there, and that's why he's so susceptible to Miss Golden Week. Zoro's still striking a pose at this time, still loving every moment he has where he's going to cut off his feet. Oh no, he's bleeding out. What is he going to do? He's going to strike another pose. So he's just doing all of this. It's Usopp that figures out that they're being encased in wax. So if they can ignite everything, then they can melt the wax and free everyone. Luffy's trying to battle against Miss Golden Week, but once again, Usopp attacks his jacket and blows up the symbol. Or he gets Mr. 5 to miss at him and get the symbol. The artwork for that was a little confusing, I'm not going to lie, who actually burned the coat off of Luffy. But they did so that he can't be manipulated, and Luffy eventually just saves the day in the whole situation. Everyone's freed, they defeat Mr. 3, they defeat Mrs. Golden Week, and it's over. Then we discover what Sanji's been doing. Sanji wandered off to get the meat, found a hut, and decided to help himself to tea. Everyone's off fighting, he's in Mr. 3's hut, in like a wax hut, and he's drinking tea. And the vulture, and they're called the Untitled, or the something. What are they called? The Unluckies. The Unluckies arrive and see him, but he's basically in a phone call with Mr. Zero. Mr. Zero, the head of Baroque Works, thinks that he's Mr. 3. So Sanji's like, yeah, no, we killed Luffy and those guys. They're dead. And then he gets into a fight with the Unluckies, and he's like, no, that was Luffy and them. They're not dead. They're alive, but I took care of them now, so don't worry about it. And Mr. Zero decides that he's going to send basically assassins to go kill Mr. 3 because he thinks that Mr. 3 betrayed him. And all of this is because Sanji was just having some tea and didn't know who he was talking to. And that's just hilarious to me. More just mishaps happening due to the Straw Hat Pirates and what they're doing in general. But overall, I did enjoy Little Garden, and our group did leave, but it didn't feel that impactful to the overall story. And I don't know what I was expecting. You see, whenever I talk about One Piece or anime or manga over on the Mangastorian channel, a lot of people bring up the giants from the One Piece storyline. And so for such a short story, it's only like 15 chapters, and it's mostly just a fight against the Candle Guy and against Mrs. Golden Week. And it does set up a lot of things, but it was fun, but it did feel kind of like a filler arc in general. And I don't know if it's going to come back. I've already seen that Oda likes to bring back characters from like 100 chapters ago. So maybe this isn't the giant arc that everyone talks about over on Mangastorian. But if this is it, I mean, the giants are cool, and I liked the idea of the Warrior Code honor, but it just didn't feel that impactful to the overall storyline. As they're leaving, Dory and Broggy, because Broggy, whichever one got injured, he was alive. He was just heavily injured. They're still okay, and they slay the Island Eater so that everyone can leave. And I do like that at the ending, we find out what the battle between the giants was about. They both caught fish, and they were arguing over whose fish was bigger. That's the whole thing. And I loved the like pan out shot where it shows the two skeletons of the fish to show you that they've been fighting here long enough that those fish are just bones. It's been 100 years and they don't even know why they're fighting. The volcano erupts and they're back at it. And I thought that was a cool way to just wrap up the giant arc. It's a fun little story. I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel as impactful or even moving to me as Drum Island. So in the middle of this dinosaur jungle island, apparently Nami got bitten by a bug. And it was funny because it gets brought up, you would only get bitten by a bug if you were running around with your stomach exposed, to which she said she was. And I thought that was kind of like a fun play on the fact that she's just always in a bikini, but whatever. She's always got a bikini top on, and that's like her whole thing, I guess. I just thought that was funny. Anyway, Drum Island is an island in which, between Drum Island, there is one thing we meet. We met a pirate that eats things. On the way to Drum Island, Warpole and his crew show up and they try to eat the Go Mary, which was funny, and then they immediately dispose of them. And I'm like, okay, they're so coming back. There's no way that we're gonna have like a 2-chapter thing where you just kick out Warpole, the guy that can eat things, and just call it a day. So anyway, we make our way over to Drum Island. At Drum Island, we discover a story. They need a doctor for Nami. Nami's coming down with a fever. She's going to die. So they arrive at this snow-covered island and they figure that they need to go see the doctor. The town tells them that the doctor lives on the top of the mountain in a castle. It's the only doctor on the entire island. I don't know how I'm going to pronounce her name. It's like Kuraha, but I'm just going to call her the witch because she's the witch named Kuraha. Anyway, I doubt I'm pronouncing that right, so we'll just say witch so that you guys don't worry about that. First off, they land on the island and the townsfolk want to kill them. And this is interesting because all of my complaints about Luffy up to this point kind of got disposed of here, because up until now, I have found Luffy doesn't have that much actual character development, and that's been, I think, my core problem with him. We've seen a lot of what Zoro's doing, we've seen a lot of what Sanji's doing, but other than Luffy's initial meeting with Shanks, for the most part, he's kind of removed from everything. He's got one goal. I want to get to the end of the Grand Line and steal Gold Roger's treasure, or get Gold Roger's treasure. And everyone he meets, it's either, you're now on my crew, and I'm going to force you to be in my crew, or he just goes into straight fighting. And I haven't found there to be that much character development for Luffy before this chapter, I want to say it's like 120? I got it right here. 130 is when it started. But this is when I start to see like another side of Luffy. So first off, when the town attacks them because they're pirates, Luffy's answer is to fight them. But it's Vivi who says, stop what you're doing. Just listen and try to talk it down. And he listens to her. And they talk themselves out of the fight with the townsfolk. And then we run into another similar issue where they have to get Nami to the doctor, the witch, at the top of the mountain. And so they decide they're gonna go up the mountain, and it's Luffy and Sanji that are gonna climb this mountain. And Luffy is gonna carry Nami on his back, which for the first time, Luffy was doing something that he couldn't fight. And that was stated multiple times, because every time they'd run across something, Luffy wanted to fight it out. But Sanji's like, every hit you take, Nami's gonna feel, and you'll speed up the path to her dying. And Luffy cared enough about Nami to not get involved. So we get to see Luffy actually do things to get up there, not just get knocked unconscious. Because even back with Little Garden, he wasn't in the fight initially because they dropped like a rock on him or something. I can't remember exactly, but they put something on him and he's just squirming like, let me go, let me go, let me go. So like, once again, he was removed from the fight until he was needed to wrap up the fight. And this is the first time that's not happening. He's actually going to be involved getting Nami to the top of the mountain. So we're dealing with that. We're getting Nami up to the top of the mountain while Zoro is freezing because he decided to take a winter dip in the waters, and then an avalanche eventually comes down and freezes him. And we also deal with, what's the name of the character? Dalton. He's the former captain of the guard. So Nami, Luffy, and Sanji all start climbing up the mountain. They fight giant bear-like bunny rabbits, which are funny, but that's where Luffy can't fight because he has to try to avoid everything. But while that's going on, Zoro is disposed of because he's in the water at the moment, and we have Dalton trying to figure out what's going on with, I believe it's Vivi and Usopp. They're trying to figure out what's going on in general, and like they're all trying to basically discuss what's happening. And that's when we find out Warpole is the king of this island. He's actually not a pirate. He's the guy that was eating the ship. So eventually, Luffy, Sanji, and Nami get to the top of the mountain, while Dalton is dealing with the return of Warpole and his men. Okay, and you have Dalton and you have Usopp, and Zoro gets involved in that too. Zoro beats up a guard just to get his coat because he's freezing, because he gets lost in the avalanche. He's underwater and everything, and he's like, I'm freezing. And like the guards show up, and he's just like, whoa, pow! I just wanted your coat. That's all he does. And I'm like, Zoro's my favorite. But Luffy, Nami, and Sanji get to the top of the mountain where they meet the witch. And they see this weird reindeer-type character. I had no idea who this reindeer-type character was. And at the ending of the story, he joins the crew, and I realized that what I thought was just a One Piece mascot. I didn't realize that was a crew member. But anyway, so this weird reindeer character, who I have no idea who this is peeking in on Nami. And it was one of the funnier scenes where like she gets up, she's like, what are you? And he like leans the wrong way. She's like, you're leaning the wrong way to spy on me. So he flips it real quick, like she didn't catch him right there. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know who this is, but I already love him. And we discovered that the doctor, the witch, has cured Nami. The doctor's the one that brings up the Nami. The only way you would have gotten this is if you're walking around with your stomach exposed, you got bit by a bug, blah, blah, blah. Nami has to stay here for 3 days to heal. And Nami's fighting that tooth and nail. I'm not doing that. I'm fine. I'm better. We're good to go. Luffy and Sanji then, now that they're safe and they've made it up to the top of this mountain, are now chasing the blue-nosed reindeer around the castle, wanting to cut him up because they're like, he'll make great food. And I'm like, oh, this is funny. I don't know who he is, but I don't know where this is going, but cool. And they stop, and the reindeer turns and yells at them that he's not food. And they shockingly yell back at him, monster! And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know where this is going. And then Luffy's like, I want him on the crew. And I'm like, wait, is this thing gonna join the crew? The story behind the reindeer I found to be really sad. So the reindeer is kind of like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer thing. He's a blue-nosed reindeer, and he was with his pack. And he ate a devil fruit that lets him change into a man. So he has 3 forms. He can turn into man, weird midget in the middle kind of thing, and then reindeer. But the reindeer thought of him as a monster and shunned him. And the people in the town thought of him as a monster, and they shunned him. And so the people were beating him up, and this other guy showed up, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. We're calling him the Quack Doctor, which is the name they gave him in the book. He had a real name, but it's like with an H, and it was all kinds of weird, and I just started thinking of him as the Quack Doctor. The Quack Doctor is a bad doctor. We find out later on that he was a bandit who got cured by the sight of cherry blossoms, so his goal is to bring cherry blossoms to the snow island. That's what he wants to do. He feels it'll cure everyone. But he tries all these Quack Doctor remedies that don't work. He's a bad doctor. But he picks up the reindeer and he brings him to his house, where he bandages him up and he tries to heal him. And he names him Chopper because he feels that his antlers could chop down stuff. I don't know where they got the Tony, but his name is Tony Chopper, and I'm just like, I love this. This is great. Tony Chopper is my new favorite. So anyway, Tony Chopper spends a year with Quack Doctor. And we discover as this story is unfolding, as we hear the history of everything, that the island had 20 doctors, but the 20 doctors only worked for King Wapol. And the only other doctors were the Witch and Quack Doctor. And they were trying to figure out how to stop that. The 20 doctors shouldn't only be with the king, but the king was using them as a way of power and to gain authority and stuff like that over the island. We discover that the Quack Doctor is also going to die. The witch tells him, you're going to die in so many, I think it was like a week, but she was able to stretch it out to like a couple of weeks. And Tony Chopper wants to make good with the Quack Doctor for saving him. So he goes on his own adventure to get a mushroom that he deems to be the cure. It'll cure all. That's what he does. And he brings the mushroom back and he makes a soup for the Quack Doctor. The Quack Doctor is then all excited that he's been cured of his illness, and he runs off to the town. We'll come back to that in a minute because the witch arrives and she asks where the Quack Doctor went because he's dying. And Chopper tells her he's not dying. I saved him and I sent him off. And Chopper opens up a book, and in the book, he says that he is safe because this symbol means that it's hope and it will cure anything. And it's the skull and bones symbol. The reason he thought that meant hope and that it can save everything is the Quack Doctor basically took his old pirate flag and then put cherry blossoms on it and said that this symbol means hope and that we can save anybody. But in the book, it means poison, which is what skull and crossbones typically means. And the witch explains to Chopper that no, you just gave him a poisonous mushroom. He's going to die in an hour. The Quack Doctor knew this, and he's running off out into the town because what's happening is rumor has gone around that the 20 doctors for the kingdom are sick. And because of that, they can't help anyone on the island. The Quack Doctor runs up to the castle to declare that he is there to save the 20 doctors, only for Wapol and his men to tell them that it's all a trick. The doctors are fine. They wanted to track the Quack Doctor so that they can kill him. But he doesn't care because he's already dying. Chopper's all upset because he thinks he just killed the Quack Doctor. The Quack Doctor ends up sacrificing himself for the good of the island and for Chopper, and the witch takes in Chopper, which is how Chopper is with the witch at the top of the mountain. So when Wapol fled from the island because they were under attack by the pirate Blackbeard, the witch moved into his castle. But it was just a touching story of Chopper thought he was saving this man only to be the one to kind of seal his demise. But the Quack Doctor even said, and I believe he was drinking it at the end, I was a little unclear because he just takes it out, but he wanted Chopper to know that he didn't kill him. That was one of the things he said at the very ending. So I don't think he actually ate the mushroom drink, or he ate it at the very ending when he was going to die anyway. but I was a little unclear exactly what was happening with that exact moment, because they asked him why he wasn't scared to die, and he said because hope will live on, and I will give hope to this island. And he drinks what I think is the mushroom thing, and he's like, hey, I want Chopper to know he didn't kill me. So we then jump ahead. Wapol comes back. We're now in the castle. Luffy is obsessed with getting the talking reindeer on his team, and Sanji is confused by what's going on. And they also see another side to Chopper, because they were going to close the front door, but the front door had like a nest of snowbirds on it, and they weren't going to touch that. They were going to stay cold. Anyway, Wapol eventually gets to the castle, which then enters into our big battle. Luffy is fighting against Wapol, but Chopper gets involved, and we discover that Chopper has learned 7 transformations, which it just amazes Luffy. Luffy is like, he wants Wapol because they're friends. I mean, not Wapol. He wants Chopper because they're friends, and he has 7 transformations. So, like, they're all fighting. Everything's going awesome. They're having a big battle. Sanji's back gets broken midway into this, so he gets, like, pulled out of the battle. Sanji and Luffy do this weird, it reminded me of the Cannonball special that Wolverine and Colossus do, but, like, he kicks Luffy, who winds up. I feel like some of these attacks would look better in animation, because I'm looking at Luffy winding up and then what I think was unwinding, and I'm like, I think this would be better in animation. I probably should look up some of these fights after I read this, but it was really cool to see them team up and do this big kick maneuver. It results with Chopper joining the crew, though. At the end of the whole thing, the witch, as usual, just like with the Nami thing, they don't like sad goodbyes. Starting to feel like Oda. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I feel like he doesn't like sad goodbyes, so everyone doesn't get a sad goodbye. They're all going to have some heroic, triumphant goodbye. But they beat Wapol. He's defeated. Chopper joins the team, and I'm like, oh, cool, because I'm really digging Vivi and Chopper, and I think I think my order now is Zoro, Vivi, Chopper, Sanji. Sanji could easily climb, though. I like the whole idea of Sanji. I want him to do more at the moment. Right now, he's just one of the ones talking sense into Luffy. And Luffy is growing on me. Like, to see this character development and him be a part of the whole thing, not just being knocked out, but he's trying to, like, talk to everyone, and he wanted Chopper on the crew just because they're friends. I like later, they explain, good job, Luffy, you got a doctor. And he's like, he's a doctor too? I just wanted him because he had 7 transformations. And I'm just like, you're building the greatest crew ever, and you just want them because they're cool. Like, it's just, I don't know. I like it a lot. Also, I loved the idea, and this was a really cool drawing. I didn't mention it, and I just saw this scene over here on the wiki, which I used to kind of keep track of some of my thoughts on this. But Luffy, in Nami's coat, holding the pirate flag, telling Wapol that he doesn't understand it, and it is unbreakable. Just the way it's drawn just looks incredible. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kevin's going to edit this one, or I will, but whoever it is, put up like that scene. I'll get you the manga image, but it just looked so awesome. Just Luffy being like, I'm unbreakable, pirates are unbreakable. So it wrapped up awesomely. I love Chopper on the crew now. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. I thought he was just a mascot. I thought it was like I guess the mascot now is the skull and bones on the merry-go. But I thought Chopper was just like the One Piece mascot. I didn't know he was a talking reindeer that could transform. Makes total sense. Well, it doesn't, but you know what I mean. They also, at the ending, there's a moment in the aftermath where they send off these cannons that are laced with a substance which will make the snow appear like cherry blossoms. So Quack Doctor's goal of bringing cherry blossoms to the snowy island was achieved in the end, so he could help cure their cold hearts and make them feel the warmth that he felt when he got there. So I liked the resolution to everything. Quack Doctor got a great resolution. Chopper's now in the crew. Nami's all cured. Witch was cool. I kind of hope she comes back, for being 139 and still looking young and spry. She was awesome. I liked her character. Oh, also, I know I said my friend said it was a mistranslation, but they reveal that Gold Roger's actual name is Gold D. Roger in this particular arc. So I feel like that's going to become important now. Maybe it means something, but it's not Gold Roger, it's Gold D. Roger. And then the witch even says, oh, he changed his name to Gold Roger. So, okay. So that's got to mean something, considering we have Monkey D. Luffy. It's funny because when my friend said it was a mistranslation for Gold D. Roger, it didn't even dawn on me it's Monkey D. Luffy. So now we have Gold D. Roger and Monkey D. Luffy. We also have a character named Ace, who I don't know who that is, but he looked cool. He showed up. Just Ace. Which I found to be kind of interesting because I was trying to think of his name is Ace, and I'm like, how did I know his name is Ace? Because I thought he was like a shadowy character. No, it's funny because they even say it in the book, the manga. They're like, well, what message do we leave Luffy? Who are you? oh, my name is Ace, and then he's running away without paying his tab. So I don't think that he's gonna be a bad guy, because it was played off in a comical manner. So we'll see how that ends up going across. But yeah, overall, I loved these two arcs. And Arabasta, I'm excited to get into. It's like 60 chapters, and we're going to see what happens with Vivi finally getting back to her kingdom and stuff like that. So overall, I really did enjoy these two arcs. The Little Garden was okay. It was a fun read, but Drum Island, I really liked Drum Island. I thought it was a really good story. I liked the backstory behind Chopper, the Quack Doctor, and the Witch. I liked Luffy getting a lot of actual development, showing what he cares about. That no matter what, he still just cares about his crew and being the Pirate King. And I liked seeing the lengths that he would go to save Nami. I thought that was a great development for him, to finally see him do something other than just fight everyone. Because up until now, even back in the Arlong arc where he was trying to save Nami, it was still just, he gets up, he fights to save Nami. He was putting his life on the line to save Nami. He was climbing the mountain. I don't think he was actually in threat of dying at any point, but you know what I'm saying. I also thought a really fun thing about these particular manga, and it made me feel old. So at the end of every chapter, there's normally notes from the writer, and he writes answers to questions and stuff like that. Well, what they started doing was Usopp's art corner. And you get to see a lot of fun art by these kids that are like 10 to 14. And I'm sitting here thinking, this would have come out in the 2000s. So these kids who drew art that got published in the manga are now between the ages of 30 to 40. Like, at the youngest, they've got to be in their 25 to 30 range. I wonder if the kids who got published in this manga are still reading the manga to this day. And they're like, I got published in One Piece way back. So I don't know. It's just a fun thing that I thought about. Let me pull up my notes here that I wrote to myself, just things I wanted to remember. I wrote, Tony Chopper is awesome. Loving Vivi after the Little Garden arc. Ace, no idea. That's what I wrote here for my notes. And then I wrote the drawings of people should be in their 30s now. And I didn't notice this, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong or not, or somebody will, but every island just feels like a totally different anime practically. Like, we went from Arlong with fish people, and we're doing a whole racism is bad kind of storyline. And then we go over to Logtown, or whatever, Logtown, where we're on a shopping adventure and stuff like that. It feels like a separate anime almost, with the same crew going through it, more so than most other anime or manga that I've read. Because a lot of that still has running themes, but these are so separate. Like when we went to Little Garden, dinosaurs and giants, and this is our thing now. Only to go to a frosty town with no doctors and snow and avalanches and a guy that could eat stuff. So I don't know. You guys can all tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think as we're going, it just feels like things are developing as we're going along. It almost feels like it wasn't intended at first. A lot of the initial stuff was kind of how fast can we get to the fights? But now it feels like, okay, the story's a success, so let's start really making you care about the characters, and it's really working. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm hoping to get Arabasta out next week, but it's going to come down to if I can read 60 chapters over this weekend. I might have to delay this 1 week. I don't know either way. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this particular episode. I hope you're still enjoying my read-along chapter recaps and my opinions on everything. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. I do try to keep myself on point to the best of my ability, but my ADD does get the better of me, and I kind of bounce around a little bit. And I guess if you like this, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because I'm trying to do these weekly. And I'll see you next time right here at Mangastorian.